How do we study sleep? We study sleep primarily with EEG, electroencephalography. Now, before I get into looking at stages of sleep, breaking them down, a quick word about how EEG signals work. If you look at the single cell level, this is neural activity, action potentials, yes? What you should see is that where you have high levels of neural activity, the EEG signal looks like this: low amplitude, high frequency. Now, when you get periods of reduced neural activity, what you get are waves that have high amplitude but low frequency. Now, what's frequency? It's cycles. If we take a 1 second period and we have let's say a wave that does 2 cycles versus a higher frequency, okay? So when you look at EEG signal, high frequency, low amplitude corresponds to high levels of brain activity. High amplitude, meaning big waves, but low frequency, meaning slowly going up and down, is associated with lower brain activity. I'm making a big deal about this because a common misconception is that uh, large brain waves are associated with large brain activity, but it's in fact the opposite. Large amounts of brain activity give you small waves that go up and down quickly. Lower levels of brain activity give you large waves that go up and down very slowly. So when we look at stages of sleep, we see that we differentiate them by their waveform, by their EEG waveform. If we think about the awake state, you could imagine at least two levels of alertness: highly aroused and more relaxed. But of course, you and I know that there are many levels, and it's a continuum rather than a categorical state. But nevertheless, the more aroused mode that we get into, that causes irregular EEG activity at a frequency of 13 to 20 hertz. Hertz is cycles per second. So these waves that are called beta waves go up and down about 15 times per second. And here's what they look like. A more relaxed state is associated with more regular and slower uh, um, neural activity. So you're going to get alpha waves that will look like this. Higher amplitude. You see, these waves are larger than beta waves, but the frequency is slower. Now, you go to bed, you lay down, you're in this pre sleep mode, which is one of my favorite 10 minutes of my day, where you're letting go of your troubles, you're drifting off into sleep. Now, how do we know you are asleep? Well, the only way really is through EEG recordings. When you fall asleep and enter stage one sleep, you're in theta wave. You might be wondering, for exams, do you have to memorize the exact frequencies? No. But I do want you to have the order of the frequencies. I want you to know beta is the highest frequency. I want you to know where theta ranks in the frequencies that we're going to talk about. But I'm not going to say, you got a wave of a frequency of 4.3. What is it going to be? I'm not going to be that specific. Okay, but theta activity is 3.5 to 7.5 hertz. Your waves have significantly slowed from the relaxed state. So theta waves look like this. And we know you're in sleep mode when you are shifting down from alpha. Presumably you were relaxed right before sleeping. You go into theta. Now that's stage one. Then we go to stage two. How do we know we're in stage two? The appearance of these two anomalies: sleep spindles and K complexes on a bed of theta waves. Okay? So it's a bed of theta waves upon which you see these two anomalies: sleep spindles and K complexes. So a sleep spindle is a short burst of high frequency activity. And a K complex is quite, in a way, the opposite, is a sudden, slow wave. Now, what are these all about? It's not clear. There are a couple of theories. One is that these are part of a system your brain has to keep you asleep in the context of stimuli. So imagine you're trying to sleep and you have a roommate, and your roommate comes in and opens the door, and there's some sound. Now, you might not need to wake up for such a sound, but your brain is still monitoring. Or you're sleeping and a truck drives by. That's a better example because someone opening your door might be worth waking up for. Okay, but let's say a truck drives by. You don't need to wake up for that. But your brain is certainly going to detect that stimulus. And in those kinds of situations, you're liable to see one or both of these signals. Another theory is that sleep spindles and K complexes are critical for the very important processes your brain does during sleep, such as consolidating memories, or another way to say that is reaping the rewards of your daily activities. That when the hippocampus, especially, is doing this, you're liable to see sleep spindles in particular. But their precise function is still a mystery, like many things about sleep will be. Stage three. Stage three and four, let me say, are often lumped together, and they're also known as slow wave sleep. Slow wave sleep. Stage three and four together. How do I indicate that? Okay. Now, how do we know you've gone from stage two to stage three? We begin to see delta waves. What's a delta wave? Well, these are waves that are slower than 4 hertz. Here are delta waves. And you're seeing delta waves starting to happen. See, mostly a bed of theta, mostly. And you're beginning to see the emergence of some of these slower waves, yeah? And then a bunch more. theta waves, and now we're doing delta, slow waves. Stage 3 and 4 are only different. It's an arbitrary differentiation. That's why a lot of people don't even differentiate them. But let's differentiate them for fun. But the only difference is what proportion of the time is made up of delta waves. If that proportion of the time is less than half, then it's stage 3. If it's mostly delta waves, then it's stage 4. But again, combined, stage 3 and 4 are slow wave sleep, characterized by delta waves. Stage 1 and 2, characterized by theta waves. Differentiating 1 from 2, 2 has sleep spindles and K complexes. Differentiating 3 and 4, 4 has mostly delta waves, 3 has the emergence of delta waves, but it's a minority of the waves. Then we're left with this oddball stage of sleep, REM, or rapid eye movement sleep. Now, if you look at REM sleep, it's a little confusing. It doesn't really look like a sleeping state. And indeed, look, you can even get some beta activity and alpha activity and theta activity during REM. But it's a period of higher wavelength that is characterized by rapid eye movements, paralysis of the body, an increase in heart rate, and a significant increase in brain activity. As a correlate of everything I just said, this is also where we dream. Dreams happen during REM. At the end of this lecture, I'll talk about dreams, but mostly the punchline is that no one knows anything about what's really happening with dreams. But we'll talk about a prevailing theory. And that's how you differentiate the stages of sleep.